Hi, my name's Tom Richard. I'm the Senior Application Support Specialist here at the Larimer County Department of Health and Environment, and we have put together a short video training regarding the new burn permit system that we will be using called HealthSpace. The purpose of this training is to review the new burn permit system, including the workflow process, reviewing the difference between MyHD and HealthSpace, going over the list screen views in the dashboard and the system, how routing and notifications work in the system, and how you can approve and deny a burn permit. In addition to that, we'll show how that burns can be activated in the system so that they generate on a map. And then at the very end, we're going to touch on troubleshooting and some limitations within the system. First off, we'd like to go over just some of the broad categories of what the system is. So there are technically two components to this new burn permit system. One called My Health Department, which we also refer to as MyHD, and this is the public portal that users will log into in order to submit a burn permit request, or a burn permit application rather. We use this for other parts of our environmental health programs, including retail food and inspections and things of that nature. We also use it for invoicing so that people can pay their invoices online. But for the purposes of burn permits, this is just how somebody can create an account so that they can submit a burn permit application. Um, the other component is going to be called HealthSpace. The name of the vendor is called HS GovTech Solutions. So if you see that name, that's pretty much what it means as well. The system you're going to be logging into specifically, they refer to as HS Cloud Suite. We really just shorthand refer to it as HealthSpace. And that is going to be the portal that Fire Protection District staff, Larimer County Department of Health and Environment staff are going to log into and actually to work in the system. So with that said, the entire system is cloud-based. It is hardware agnostic and it is browser agnostic. However, we still recommend that you use Google Chrome. It's what we use here at the department, and it's what we do primarily with all of our testing and how we can find out issues. So we do recommend that you use that as one of your first troubleshooting steps. Next, I'll go over the entire workflow process. So again, we're working left to right here. Initially, somebody's going to log into MyHD. They're going to create their burn permit application. They're going to submit it, and we'll go through that entire process here in just a moment. As soon as they hit submit, MyHD is going to route that burn permit application into HealthSpace. And when that happens, Larimer County Department of Health and Environment staff are going to receive an email notification saying, hey, there is a new burn permit that is in the system. Go ahead and take a look at it. So our air quality folks are going to log into the system. They're going to review that record just at a very high level. And what they'll do is they'll essentially route it to the fire protection district that's responsible for the burns conducted in that specific area on the application. At that point, we're going to route it over to Fire Protection District staff, and as the same way that we received a notification that a new application had been submitted, Fire Protection District staff who have HealthSpace users are also going to receive a notification saying, hey, there is a burn permit that needs to be reviewed. You guys will log into that HealthSpace. You will find that permit based on either the permit number or the name of the applicant or where it is in your queue. At that point, you'll review it. You can add whatever commentary you need to have show up on the permit, and then you can either approve or deny the permit. And on this next step, notification is sent to the applicant based on whether or not you approve or deny it. If they are approved, they do receive a copy of the burn permit, which is a link to the PDF that they can download, and we'll go over that in just a moment. If they are denied, they also receive a link saying, hey, your application's been denied, and if you provided commentary as to the reason of the denial, that will show up on basically a piece of paper that says you've been denied. So that's kind of the entire process from start to finish for what you guys will review. And then what happens next is the applicant, provided that they're approved, is going to call the number listed on the burn permit on the day that they intend to burn and for every subsequent day that they intend to burn. And when that happens, dispatch is going to log into HealthSpace. They'll identify that same record that you guys just approved, and they'll set it to active. And what that will do is it'll update a burn permit map. It'll help us with tracking and recording of things, and it'll let us know, hey, there were burns that were active in this area on this day. And then the following day, Larimer County Department of Health and Environment staff are actually going to log in to the system, and we're going to mark all of the burns that were set as active as the previous day as completed. And that's so that if there is a reignition, we can identify where it is. It also makes it a little bit cleaner for us to make sure, hey, everybody in the system is doing what they need to be doing. And it allows for a process where people who are burning over multiple days can still have their active burns show up on the screen. So with that said, I'm going to go through an entire application here, start to finish. I'm going to show you how they can log into the system, what it'll look like when they get there, and all the required fields in the system. So let me just toggle over here and we'll get started. So this is my HD. This is the login screen specifically for the Larimer County Department of Health and Environment. You can see that it just requires a username and a password. There's no second factor of authentication required. And so anybody with an email address can sign up for one of these accounts. So I'm just going to log in with my test user here. And it's going to drop me to a splash page. And this splash page does not yet have the links for the burn permit. I actually have those separate so that people can't accidentally submit. So I'm going to toggle over to it. And I'm going to refresh this page. And this is what the burn permit application itself is going to look like. So there will be some required fields, and I'm just going to fill those out now. All right, so I've got some dummy data in here. I'm going to scroll down, and this is where the applicant's actually going to list where they are actually going to be conducting their burn. There's two ways they can list the actual area. One is to select on a map, basically the parcel that they're going to be burning on. So if I zoom in and I say I'm going to be burning right there at this particular location, I just click on this and I hit select location, and it's going to pull up a whole bunch of different information concerning that area. The other option that they'll be able to do is if they know the address for it, they can type it in here, hit verify, confirm that this is the information they wanted, hit verify again, and it'll pull up the address. I'm going to complete the rest of the required fields here really quickly just so we can save a little bit of time. Further down on this page is information concerning the actual burn. So I'm going to say that they'll be burning for the span of a week. And we did our best to try and match all of the existing selections in the current system into this new system. So if there is something that is a little bit different or you need tweaked, let us know. There is some flexibility that we have. But with that said, I'm going to say that this is an agriculture burn, and we are going to be burning 10 acres worth of weeds. I'm going to say we don't have a CDPHE number because agriculture burns are exempt. And I'm going to fill out some other additional information here. If they want, they can provide some additional commentary. Based on their selection, they'll have some additional things that they need to read and agree to. So I'm going to say yes. They're going to put their initials there. And then they'll also have an opportunity here to upload a particular file, and I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to choose a file here. We'll upload that. I'm just going to call this test image. They could upload pictures of the burn piles, or if there was a hand-drawn map of where they'll be burning, just to make things a little bit easier, that's something that they can do. They just have to hit upload file in order to do that. At this point, everything's been entered, and they'll hit submit. It asks them to review. We hit OK. At this point, they do have a splash screen that shows up that says you do not have permission to burn. So at this point, we will receive an email notification saying, hey, you have now received a new burn permit. So we're going to take a look at what that'll look like. So you can see, yep, we got a notification from my health department basically saying, hey, there is a new record that needs to be reviewed. And it does include a nice little link here. So at that point, that's everything that you'll need to know about MyHD and the rest of the submission process. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to review different parts of the HS Cloud Suite. So I'm going to do my best to review the dashboard, a list screen view, how you guys consider filtered views, how you can view individual records, things within those records that I just want to make sure you guys are aware of, such as the difference between a step and a status. We're going to discuss a little bit more about LCDHE routing, how you can add commentary onto a burn permit, and what those print forms will look like and how we recommend that you work with them. So with that said, this is going to be the screen that you're going to use to log into the system. So I'm going to punch in my username and password here. And you will most likely have an opportunity to select one of two different systems. One is called Larimer County DHE, and one is called Larimer County Staging. So because of the way that my HD integrates with HealthSpace, we weren't able to build all of the things that we need in burn permits in a staging environment. So we had to do our testing in production, which is not a best practice, but it was the only way that we could get things synced up so that we could actually test with live applications to make sure that routing and everything else was working appropriately. So with that said, you will select Larimer County DHE and you'll click on Go. And your system's going to look a little bit different. Yours will probably have up here, instead of all of these other options, you will just have one that says Burn Permit Application. So I'm going to click on that. And this is going to be the main screen that you guys will primarily see. This is what we refer to as a list screen view. So there's a bunch of different options up here, and I'm going to go through some of these fields just in a little bit more detail. But up at the top, you'll notice that we have a bunch of different tabs. These are what's known as filtered views or saved views. And if there's a little three-person icon, it means that it's available for all of the users in the system, but you do have the opportunity to create your own specific filtered views. So the default view, we just kind of left as default, but if you just wanted to see permits that were expired, you could select on expired permits. And you can see here, all it's done is it's filtered all of these permits that have a status equal to expired. If we wanted to look at all the eligible burn permits, same kind of deal. If it's in the step process of approved and the status is inactive, active, or complete, this is everything that is able to be burned. Same way, if we wanted to look at all the active burns, this is everything with the status of active, so on and so forth. So I won't go over all of these, but if you wanted to create your own, what you can do is I'm going to go back to the default screen here. I'm going to hit Filter By, and you can see that you have a whole host of options. And most of the things in the record that you can create a filtered view on are going to show up here. And if not, we have the opportunity to add some of them. So if I knew that the application date, or excuse me, let's do valid from, and I wanted to see everything that was going to be basically applied for from August 11th until August 26th. Oh, let me change that. So a start date for the burns is going to be equal to that until this. All right, let's say that we wanted to see an application that came in a certain date range. We could filter this between two specific dates. So if we wanted to see all the applications that came in from February until the 20th. All right, and one way that you can set up your own specific filtered views is if you just click on View Filter, and let's say you wanted to see all of the burns that were listed as completed, and you wanted to see all of those burns that were listed as completed with an application date, so something that was submitted, oh, let's say from the beginning of the year until now. So we'll do between two dates, and we want to see what has been completed. And you can see that we do have some records that populate. And one thing I forgot to mention is that this map up here is rendered with the information that is included in these records. So you can see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. If I was to zoom out, let's see, there's one that's missing, and that might have to do with the fact that it's at the same address location, if I had to guess, because we do use 1525 Blue Spruce for a lot of our testing. So with that said, that's how you can create your own specific filtered views. At that point, all you'll have to do is hit Save View, give it a name, and Save as New. And then you'll always have that view. The other thing that you can do is you can add and remove columns. So if you needed to know specific burn types, you could just click on columns and sort. You can add burn types as an option. Oh, and let's say you wanted to see which agency it was assigned to or something to that effect. We'll update this. And now we can see that we have the burn type listed and the agency that it's been assigned to. One thing we cannot do is change the layout of these columns, but what we can do is we can add and remove them. So I can't put burn permit type in front of open burn permit ID. That might be a function that's coming in the future, but that's not something that we can do right now. So with that said, I'm now back on the default burns. We can see that this is the one that was just submitted today. So I'm going to log in and we'll look at the actual burn permit. Or excuse me, the burn permit application as it shows up in the system. So we can see that it's automatically given a open burn permit ID. And every time it basically is submitted into the system, it has a burn status of received. So one thing I did want to touch on is the difference of a burn status versus the step. So the way that I like to remember it is the burn status is kind of what the actual burn is doing. The step is the step in the process for the actual burn permit application. So right now, when it shows up in our system, it's submitted for DEH approval. That's us. So we'll log in and we'll take a look at it. And it always comes in as a received status. So we'll look at all this information really just at a high level view. And at this point, if there's something that we want the fire protection district to know about this particular record, we can add it to the communication log. Now, the communication log does not appear anywhere on the actual burn permit printable form itself, but it is available to any of the users who have access to these records, so just be mindful of that. At this point, we could also, if we needed some information to appear on the burn permit itself, we could say, hey, we want this text to show up every time. We're going to select our standard default text, and we like to refer to these as predefined comments. And we only have a handful of them for ourselves, but we did set all the fire protection districts up with their own individual ones. So if there is a particular message that your fire protection district would like to show on every single permit, and to make it easy on you guys, we can basically set it up for you. So we'll just pick on Poudre Fire Authority here, and this is their default message. This is drop down and edit, so if there was stuff that you needed to take out of here, you most definitely could. We cannot refer to variables in the application itself. So if you wanted the valid to or valid till date, that's not something that we can populate, but we can set something up here to make it easy to copy and paste something for you guys. If there's specific types of burns for your agency that you always want to have certain language on it, we can get you set up as well. We're not really restricted by this. It might get a little unwieldy in the future, so just something for us to keep in mind. At that point, I'm actually going to undo this. And I'm going to continue to work it just as if I was DHE staff. So at this point, what we're going to do is I'm going to forward this to a fire protection district. I'm going to send it to our test one so that we don't send emails out. And I'm going to say that I assign this burn permit to this test fire protection district on this date. And before I move any further, you can see that, hey, yep, there was a file that was uploaded. And if you guys need to view it, you can click this and you can download that file. So at this point, we've done our part here as Larimer County Department of Health and Environment staff. As soon as I changed that status to assigned to FPD or routed to FPD, the burn status updated to under review. I do have one final step that I need to do right now, and that is hit save changes. If I don't hit save changes, it's not going to record any of the information that I saved. So every time that you're done working with a record, please remember to click on save changes. So at this point, fire protection district staff who are set up on the notification emails to receive notifications for burn permit applications that we've routed to them are going to receive an email that's nearly identical to the one that we received. And you guys will log in the exact same way. You're going to sign in with your username and password, or you can click on that link and it'll take you to the login page to get you to that record. And you'll look at this and you'll go, okay, here is where we are in the process. You'll conduct your own specific review. You can add in your own commentary here in the communication log, and you can provide your own predefined comments that you want to show up on the burn permit application itself. At this point, you're going to change it to either approved or denied for the step. So let's say that we approved it. You're going to have a requirement to put in the date that you approved it, who approved it, and at this point, I'm going to hit Save Changes. So as soon as I do that, you can see that I've already received an email that this has been forwarded to our test user. So let me back up. This is the notification email when we routed it to our Fire Protection District test. And if I reload this page, all right, you can see that, hey, we did receive an email notification saying your burn permit has been approved. And it's going to provide us with a link. And it does include all the information that we put into the burn permit form itself. So I'm going to toggle back over to the burn permit, and we're going to review just briefly the print forms. So we have two major print forms, and this is an older form that we're not going to be using and will be removed from the system here shortly. There is a burn permit approved form. So if I click on this, it's going to generate that same form so you guys can look at it before. And if we wanted to show what it would look like if it was denied, same kind of deal. It does have the denial reasons, and that's just your predefined comment of whatever it is that you put in there. So I'm going to go back one more time. So in terms of a system limitation that we've run into, it's this. The way that email works in the year 2025, we are not able to dictate how other people's firewalls, internet service providers, or mail servers work. And because these are emails that are generated from an email address that this user's probably never seen before or interacted with before, and because it has a link embedded in it, there's a good chance that a lot of the emails that this system generates are going to get caught by spam filters. So with that said, we can verify with HealthSpace that these records are going out. Whether or not they're being received is another matter entirely. So we still recommend that the Fire Protection District staff click on Burn Permit Approved, download it, and then email that approved burn permit to the address or the email address listed on the record. That just helps ensure that, hey, they did get this communication. There was some follow-up. They aren't waiting on us, to basically reach out with an email address that isn't compatible with something that HealthSpace is able to send out. So again, we just like to recommend that folks actually do that. If they are getting it and they just need another copy of it, you can also click on this drop-down arrow and hit Send Permit. The email address they provide is going to be the default one, but if you needed it to forward it on to others, you most certainly can add them there. So that's print forms in general. On the print form, we are still working on a few little caveats here. We're going to get all of the numbers that are basically the numbers for dispatch that somebody will call listed so that as soon as a fire protection district is assigned one, their specific information shows up. So that's in progress right now. So the burn permit has been approved. The burn status has been updated to inactive. This is automatic. You guys won't have to really mess too much with burn status at all, because you'll primarily be concerned with the step in the process. But the only exception is going to be on the day of the burn. So on the day of the burn, the farmer or the applicant is going to call and say, hey, I will be burning. Dispatch is going to log into the system. They'll identify the record that caller is referring to, either by the open burn permit ID number listed on the permit, or they can search by the name or the address. In any case, what they'll do is they're going to log into this. All that they'll need to do as dispatch is change the burn status from inactive to active and to say what date. And again, we just like to hammer home, you've got to hit Save Changes, otherwise it won't remember that. So now the record is updated. And what that will also do is if I go back a screen and I go to active burns, it's going to show up on the map as well. And again, our testing gets a little wonky just because we're using the same address for a lot of our burns here, so there's some overlap. Um, but with that said, this is going to show up on the active burns map. We also have a specific map just for active burns that's going to be available on our website. So this won't require a login. It does tie into HealthSpace though, and it shows all of the active burns. I might have to refresh this one just to show everything that has been added recently. And there we are. So this is a list of all the active burns currently going on today. So again, one of the last things that I wanted to touch on was just some limitations within the system, one of which I've already touched on, which is just email notification issues. Unfortunately, there is not much that the vendor can do to resolve these kind of issues. Again, depending on what kind of firewall someone is using, what their internet service provider is, how their mail client works, things of that nature. So we just like to recommend that folks actually send an email downloaded PDF of the actual approved or denied burn permit so that there isn't any confusion. I'm going to go through some troubleshooting steps really quickly because this is still something that we are developing. So for those users who are submitting an application, my first recommendation is if they're running into issues, is to just refresh the page 1 or 2 times. That way they'll get a blank slate to work with, because in some cases, if they select a burn application type like agriculture and they start filling it out, but then they actually change it over to a broadcast burn, they're going to have some fields that still carry over. So for those submitting on MyHD, I just recommend that they refresh their page. For actual users within HealthSpace, one of the best troubleshooting tools that you will use is actually built into the product already. So because we're doing some updates for the burn permit, printable forms and things like that, there's the chance that there are some configuration changes that are going on in the background, and your particular browser is using a cached version of some old configuration files. So the easiest way to clear that out is to click on your name in the upper right-hand corner and just select Clear Cache. And then you can click OK. And what that's going to do is it's going to remove all the HealthSpace specific cache information. It's going to force that page to reload with the newest configs, and that's going to solve most of the issues that you're going to encounter. And last but not least, I did want to touch just on support. So the best way to reach out to support for people who are either new users, who need a new user generated in the system, or if you have questions or comments or things of that nature, feel free to reach out to me directly. You can reach me at tom.richard@larimer.gov. And then this is the health department number. You can also reach me there as well. So with that said, that concludes the burn permit training that we had scheduled for you guys. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you however I can. And I hope everything else is going well. And I will see you guys all in the future. Take care.